Hey, guess who's doing a What's So Good About? A series about really good games and why you should stick your noses into them. I want to talk about Devil Survivor Overclocked, a 2011 remake of the 2009 Shin Megami Tensei game, this time for 3DS. Developed by Careersoft and published by Atlas and Ghostlight, Overclocked is literally my favourite Shin Megami Tensei game. It's perfect. One of the main reasons I adore the story is that the plot feels very naturally paced. Like Persona 4, the cast have to work hard to understand how everything works. What's happening in the story, what's happening with their comps, the way they summon demons, and how the rules of the setting work. But unlike Persona 4's infamously slow start, the characters are forced into the thick of it very quickly. You're not even on the first official day, you're in the day before when your first combat encounter starts, and you have a few more combats throughout the day. It's really great. Another thing that really works about the plot is the day-to-day progression. The game is set over the course of a week, and the game really examines how society would start to fall apart in the scenario the game presents. The gameplay itself is also super enjoyable. It fuses tactics and role-playing gameplay. You move on a grid to attack groups of enemies that appear on a tactics grid, and when you attack them, it enters into round-based combat, basic turn-based stuff. And like a lot of other SMT games in the sub-series, like Persona has the Once More, Tokyo Mirage Sessions has the Sessions, this game has the extra turn mechanic. It's high risk and high reward because unlike a lot of the others, it's chance-based whether you get an extra turn, but if you can get it to work right, you can decimate the enemy, and you get bonuses for decimating the enemy. Another thing that's really great about the extra turn is that a lot of unique skills in this game that don't appear in other games are built around the core gameplay, like built around getting extra turns, built around attacking at a distance on the grid, but not getting extra turns. It's really well how they've considered what makes the systems unique and built upon it. Speaking of building upon things, the game is sort of very programmer themed. For the first time since the original Megami Tensei novels, demons are summoned through a computer program called the Demon Summoning Program, and this means that gaining new attack skills for your party is sort of done in a pseudo-hacking type thing. It's called the skill crack. Basically, before the battle starts, you select what skills you want to crack off what enemies, and if say person A chooses to skill crack Agi off an enemy, and then person A kills that enemy, they get that skill. You get to keep Agi and equip it later. It adds another layer of complexity to the combat. It's quite possibly one of my favorite parts of the game. It's such a simple addition, but it completely changes how you approach some combat encounters, especially because you have to make sure some NPCs don't steal your skill crack, because if they kill the enemy before you get to, you don't get the skill. Keisuke, stealing my stupid skills. And another limitation is that you can only take one skill of one enemy. So Wendigo is an early example. It has two skills you won't have, but you can only grab one of them. So you really have to think ahead and choose what you want to prioritize in getting. But beyond the really simple gameplay systems that add up to create something incredibly complex and engaging, I think my favorite part of the game will always be the story. It has some really unique story elements. For instance, your main character can see how many days people have left to live, day by day. It really emphasizes the fact that you're going to be trapped in Tokyo for a long time. And one of the best early plot hooks you get in the game is the fact that nobody trapped within the Tokyo lockdown has more than a week left to live. And many people you meet have less than that, including yourselves, at first. The tagline for the game is pretty simple. Peaceful days have died, let's survive. It appears in the opening movie as well as when the Demon Summoning Program first boots, and it really perfectly explains the game, because the entire thing is based on survival. You get this email that tells you some upcoming events in the days, like there's going to be a gas explosion at this time, there's going to be a monster attack at this time, and it lets you know, your characters know how they're going to survive the day. Because just like I mentioned, your characters are spending a lot of time working out what's going on, and that means they're using this information proactively, and it's just so good. The story's so well written. I love it when characters take advantage of future events like this, and they use it to save their own lives and extend their own death clocks, because some people have less than ideal lifetimes left on the death clocks. And similarly, there are characters who give you the other endings. Like, to get Yuzu's ending, you just choose Yuzu at the end of the 6th day. To get Amane's ending, you've got to hit some event flags to get Amane's ending at the end of the 6th day. But some characters who give you endings might die during the week, and to prevent that from happening, you have to save their lives. The gameplay ties back into survival for not just you, but the other characters around you. And even the story itself is about people trapped in Tokyo and how society starts to fall apart. Riots break out, people are fighting over food, the hospitals don't have power. Everything in the story is built around the theme of survival. And oh my god, we have to fight an immortal god on the third day? What is going on there? Finally, I want to talk about how Devil Survivor compares with the rest of the Shin Megami Tensei series at the time. Around the time of the DS games in Shin Megami Tensei, the series had sort of fallen into a rut where neutral endings were always the best options and the chaos and lore endings always sucked. It was fine, but it was a lot less interesting than the earlier games where pretty much every side had its pros and cons. Devil Survivor fixes this by having 3 neutral endings, one of them bad, one of them less bad, and one of them good, and then a lore and a chaos ending. And even though the original game, Devil Survivor for DS, had some pretty downer endings in there, Overclocked takes 3 of them, Yuzu's, Amane's, and Naoya's, and makes them better with an 8th day epilogue. And it means that the game is surprisingly optimistic for a Shin Megami Tensei game. Everything's really happy and hey, look, we turned that terrible ending into a good one, Yuzu. You're not terrible, Yuzu, you did it. Also, the rest of the series doesn't have Amane or Shoji, which means they're automatically bad because those are the best girls in this game. So if I was to recommend Devil Survivor Overclocked to someone, I'd talk about the really well-paced plot, the incredible gameplay elements, how the story and gameplay come together, how the game is really tightly themed, and how I think it's one of the best, no, scratch that, it's the best SMT game on the DS. And possibly of all time. It's really good, guys.
This lockdown is an act of insanity that robs us of our rights. And I also have a secret plan to get outside the cordon.
You have a plan? Are you serious?
Only if you'll answer my questions. Let's start with the basic stuff. Where did you sleep yesterday? That is, what kind of place did you spend the night in? I see. Did anything trouble you while you were there? I had a feeling you'd say that. Of course you want to go home. Well then, here's the last question. How long do you think this lockdown will last? I see. That's only natural. I mean, like, duh, Shoji, right? Thanks. Your responses will help me in my article. I don't know exactly how many people are trapped, but it's in the hundreds of thousands. Even then, the government has taken almost no action in response to this situation. This is completely absurd. Japan is supposed to be a land of democracy. Once this lockdown is lifted, I'm going to investigate what happened and tell the world.
Good luck. We'll be cheering for you. In any case, what's this secret plan of yours to get out? Do you really have one?
Yes. Have you heard this? Apparently, the city highway connects to the subway.
The highway's elevated, right? How can it connect to the subway?
A part of it runs underground by the state guest house. It's called the Akasaka Tunnel. I hear there's a byroad which normal vehicles aren't allowed in that connects to a subway. I'm going to keep up with my report. If you find some way out of here, let me know. I'm not certain yet, but I've heard a rumor that it's to keep monsters from escaping. I don't know about that, though. I think it might just be a groundless rumor.
In any case, I'm surprised that nobody started to panic yet.
It's because people were given reasonable explanations, even if they were lies. Poison gas seeped out, so everyone has to stay away. An underground explosion cut the power lines. Everyone must stay calm until everything has been deemed safe. Stuff we see in disaster films rarely happens. In some cases, you may end up being too late.
Huh? Too late?
First of all, have you ever thought about why people begin to panic? Indeed, they immediately assume the worst case. Why then do you think that people panic when they imagine the worst? I'm surprised you know that. You're right. Panic occurs when people lack information and imagine the worst case scenario. Thus, panic can be controlled by giving people information, even if it is incorrect. This current method of panic control has to be carried out according to a careful plan. Yesterday's announcement about poisonous gas said that the gas's source was unknown. Today, they've updated their reports to say that the gas is flammable. These updates are important. They make people think there's progress in the situation and not consider the worst case. Sensible people may doubt the updates, but a communication freeze keeps them in check. So everybody waits for rescue. What?